My dead uncle left me his house, but there's a clause that could destroy my family. The locksmith's drill echoed through the empty hallway as I stood outside Uncle Morris's house, clutching the deed with shaking hands. 3 months after his funeral, I was finally getting inside, and what I found would turn my world upside down. Morris had always been the family outcast. Growing up, my parents would whisper about his business troubles and change the subject whenever I asked questions. He'd show up to family gatherings drunk, rambling about people who owed him and how he'd make them pay. Then he'd disappear for months. When his lawyer called saying I'd inherited his entire estate, I was shocked. We barely knew each other. My parents seemed nervous about it, telling me to be careful and maybe just sell the place quickly. But I needed the money. My daughter's medical bills were crushing us, and my husband had just lost his job. The house was a modest 2-story in a decent neighborhood, worth maybe $300K. But as I walked through the dusty rooms, I noticed things that didn't add up. Security cameras everywhere, even inside. A reinforced basement door with 3 deadbolts. And in his bedroom closet, behind a false wall, I found a safe. Inside the safe were documents that made my blood run cold. Bank statements showing millions in cash deposits, photos of local politicians and business owners, and a thick folder labeled insurance policies. But these weren't life insurance. They were detailed records of affairs, bribes, and crimes involving some of the most powerful people in our city. The inheritance clause was buried on page 12 of the will. If I kept the house for more than 6 months, I would also inherit Morris's business obligations and associated responsibilities. The lawyer had glossed over it, saying it was just legal jargon about property taxes. Now I understood. Morris hadn't left me a house, he'd left me his blackmail empire. The first envelope arrived 2 weeks later. No return address, just a single line. Your uncle's friends are wondering if you plan to honor his arrangements. Inside was a photo of my 8-year-old daughter walking into her school. I called the lawyer immediately, but he claimed he'd never heard of any business obligations. When I pressed him, his voice got tight. Miss Chen, I suggest you focus on being a good mother. Some stones are better left unturned. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those files, about the people Morris had trapped in his web. Part of me wanted to burn everything and pretend I'd never seen it. But another part, the part that remembered watching my uncle's confident smirk at family dinners, wondered if maybe I could use this power to finally secure my family's future. I was still debating when I heard the car doors slam outside at 2 a.m. Through the bedroom window, I saw 3 men in dark suits walking up my driveway. The leader was checking something on his phone, something that looked like a surveillance feed. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Time to discuss the family business. We're coming in. Then I heard the sound that changed everything. My own front door opening with a key I'd never given anyone. The footsteps moved through my house like they owned it. I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911, but another text flashed across the screen. Police won't help. Chief Martinez is in the files. I crept to the top of the stairs, my heart hammering against my ribs. The leader's voice drifted up from the living room, calm, professional, like he was discussing the weather. Mrs. Chen, we know you are listening. We're not here to hurt you. We're here to discuss your inheritance. Get out of my house, I shouted, trying to keep my voice steady. I'll call the police. A low chuckle echoed from below. Please do. Ask for Chief Martinez. Tell him Tommy Castellano sends his regards. The name hit me like a sledgehammer. Tommy Castellano. I'd seen that name dozens of times in Morris's files. Photos of him with envelopes full of cash, records of evidence that mysteriously disappeared, cases that got dropped without explanation. What do you want? I called down, my voice cracking. Just a conversation about your uncle's legacy. I had 2 choices, hide in my bedroom like a scared child, or face whatever hell Morris had dragged me into. The image of my daughter's school photo flashed through my mind, and I made my decision. The 3 men were sitting in my living room like invited guests. Tommy was mid-50s, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit that probably cost more than my car. His companions looked like they'd stepped out of a mob movie, thick necks, dead eyes, hands that had seen violence. Mrs. Chen, Tommy stood, extending his hand like we were at a business meeting. I'm sorry for the intrusion. Your uncle made a key for us years ago. I ignored his hand. What do you want? To explain your situation. He gestured to Morris's old recliner. Please sit. This will take a while. I remained standing, arms crossed. I don't want any part of whatever Morris was involved in. That's not how inheritance works. Tommy's smile never wavered, but something cold flickered in his eyes. When you accept the estate, you accept all of it. The house, the money, and the obligations. I'll sell the house, walk away from all of it. The 6-month clause prevents that. Your uncle was very thorough. He knew his family, knew you'd try to run. One of his companions spoke for the first time. Boss, maybe we should just... No. Tommy's voice cracked like a whip. Morris made his choice. Now she makes hers. I
I sank onto the couch, legs suddenly weak. What obligations? Your uncle provided a service to certain individuals in the city, people who found themselves in compromising situations. He helped them navigate their problems, and in return, they helped him navigate his. You mean blackmail? I mean mutual benefit. Tommy sat across from me, leaning forward. Morris had a gift for finding leverage. A photo here, a document there, a recording at the right moment. He never used it to destroy people, just to encourage cooperation. That's still blackmail. Call it what you will. It kept the city running smoothly for 20 years. Tommy's tablet chimed, and he glanced at it. Judge Harrison's corruption trial dismissed because Morris had evidence the prosecutor was stealing from campaign funds. Senator Williams' environmental bill passed because Morris knew about certain real estate investments. My stomach churned. This is insane. This is politics. Tommy stood pacing to the window. Morris understood that everyone has secrets. The trick is knowing which secrets to keep and which secrets to share. I won't do it. I won't hurt people. You already are. Tommy turned back to me, his expression hardening. Do you know what happens when a blackmail network collapses, when all those carefully balanced secrets suddenly become public? I shook my head. Chaos, trials, suicides, families destroyed. Morris's files could bring down half the city government, crash the local economy, and ruin thousands of innocent lives. Tommy's voice grew quieter, more menacing. Is that what you want? To be responsible for that destruction? There has to be another way. There is. Tommy returned to his seat, pulling out a leather folder. You continue Morris's work. Keep the secrets that need keeping, use the leverage that needs using, and everyone stays happy. What about the people being blackmailed? Don't they deserve to be free? Free to do what? Destroy their careers? Ruin their families? Morris was protecting them from themselves. Tommy opened the folder, revealing photographs. Judge Harrison has been skimming court fees for his daughter's cancer treatment. Should we let him go to prison while she dies? The photo showed a man I recognized from the newspaper, Judge Harrison, looking haggard and desperate as he stuffed envelopes into a briefcase. In the background, a hospital parking sign was visible. Senator Williams has been taking bribes from developers. Yes, but he's been using that money to fund homeless shelters that the city won't support. Should we shut down those shelters to satisfy your conscience? Another photo, Williams handing cash to a woman in front of a building marked St. Mary's Community Center. Morris wasn't a monster. He was a curator. He decided which secrets served the greater good and which ones deserved exposure. And who gave him that right? The same thing that gives anyone power, the ability to use it wisely. Your uncle never destroyed a family that didn't deserve it, never ruined a life that wasn't already corrupt. Can you say the same about the government, the media, the justice system? I thought about my daughter's medical bills, about my husband's job search, about the crushing weight of ordinary life. What exactly are you asking me to do? Learn the business. Morris left detailed instructions, who to approach, how to approach them, what to ask for. Most of his arrangements are already in place. You just need to maintain them. And if I refuse? Tommy's smile returned, but it was different now, predatory. Then we release everything, all of it, at once. Let the city burn and see who gets blamed when the smoke clears. The threat hung in the air like poison gas. I could see the headlines, the chaos, the finger pointing, and somehow I knew they'd find a way to make it my fault. I need time to think. You have until Friday. That's when Morris's next collection was scheduled. Tommy stood, his companions following suit. We'll be in touch. They left as quietly as they'd arrived, leaving me alone with the weight of impossible choices. I locked the door behind them, knowing it wouldn't matter. If they wanted in, they'd get in. I spent the rest of the night going through Morris's files, trying to understand the scope of what I'd inherited. The blackmail network wasn't just about money, it was about control. Morris had been pulling strings throughout the city for decades, orchestrating outcomes, managing scandals, deciding fates. Judge Harrison's file was thick with evidence: hospital bills for his daughter's leukemia treatment, bank records showing him skimming money from court fines, but also letters, desperate, heartbroken letters to insurance companies pleading for coverage that never came. Senator Williams' file painted a similar picture. Yes, he was taking bribes from developers, but the money was going to community programs, homeless shelters, after-school centers that the city had defunded. His personal accounts were nearly empty. Every file told the same story: good people making bad choices for good reasons, and Morris had been their safety net, their protector, their secret keeper. But at what cost? I found my answer in the last folder labeled Family. Inside were photos of Morris's own daughter, my cousin Sarah, who died of an overdose 5 years ago. The file contained evidence that could have saved her, proof that her dealer was a police informant, that the cops were protecting him, that the system had failed her. Morris had the power to expose it all, to get justice for Sarah, to maybe save other kids from the same fate. But he'd kept it secret, because exposing the corrupt cops would have compromised his network, would have endangered his other arrangements. He'd chosen the greater good over his own daughter. I was still staring at Sarah's photo when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Chen, this is Agent Jennifer Walsh, FBI. We need to talk. About what? About your uncle's files, about Tommy Castellano's visit tonight, about the choice you're facing. We've been watching Morris for years, watching his network, his operations, waiting for the right moment. Your inheritance might be that moment. I don't understand. Meet me tomorrow, noon, the coffee shop on 5th and Main. Come alone and bring one of the files, something that proves you have access to Morris's records. And what if I refuse? Then you'll be facing Tommy Castellano and his people without any backup. And Mrs. Chen, they won't give you 6 months to decide. They'll give you until Friday, and then they'll make the choice for you. The line went dead. I sat in Morris's chair, surrounded by secrets and lies, holding Sarah's photo. Outside, the city slept peacefully, unaware that their fate might rest in the hands of a desperate mother who'd never asked for any of this. Friday was 3 days away. The FBI wanted to meet tomorrow. Tommy Castellano expected an answer by the end of the week.
And somewhere in the middle of it all, my daughter was sleeping in her bed, trusting that her mother would keep her safe. I picked up Judge Harrison's file and started reading. If I was going to play this game, I needed to understand the rules. By morning, I'd made my decision, but I still wasn't sure if it was the right one. The coffee shop on 5th and Main was busy with the lunch crowd when I arrived. I'd barely slept, spending the night memorizing details from Morris's files, trying to understand the web of corruption and protection he'd woven around the city. I spotted Agent Walsh immediately, mid-30s, sharp suit, eyes that missed nothing. She was sitting in a corner booth, nursing a cup of coffee and watching the door. Mrs. Chen. She stood as I approached, extending her hand. Thank you for coming. I slid into the booth across from her, clutching Judge Harrison's file. How long have you been watching me? Since the moment you inherited the estate, Morris's network has been a federal interest for years. Walsh leaned forward, lowering her voice. He was good at covering his tracks, but not perfect. We've been building a case, piece by piece. And now you want me to hand over the evidence? We want you to help us bring down a criminal organization that's been corrupting this city for decades. I thought about Tommy's words, about the chaos that would follow if all the secrets came out at once. What about the collateral damage, the innocent people who will get hurt? There's always collateral damage. Walsh's expression hardened, but that's not your responsibility. Morris made these people dependent on his protection. That was his choice, not yours. Judge Harrison's daughter has cancer. If he goes to prison, he should have thought about that before he started stealing. Walsh pulled out her own tablet, showing me surveillance photos. We have evidence of Morris's network extending to at least 12 states. Drug trafficking, human trafficking, political corruption, murder. Murder? Your uncle wasn't just a blackmailer, Mrs. Chen. He was a facilitator. When blackmail wasn't enough, he provided other services. Walsh swiped through photos of crime scenes, bodies, accidents that weren't accidents. How many people died to keep his secrets? I stared at the photos, feeling sick. He killed people? He ordered kills, arranged accidents, made problems disappear. The man you inherited from wasn't a neighborhood blackmailer, he was the head of a criminal empire. Tommy Castellano said, Tommy Castellano is Morris's enforcer. He's personally responsible for at least 8 murders we know about. Walsh's voice grew urgent. These people aren't offering you a choice, Mrs. Chen. They're preparing to use you, and when you're no longer useful, they'll dispose of you. What do you want me to do? Wear a wire, get them talking, help us build a case that will put them away forever. And if they catch me? Walsh didn't answer immediately. When she did, her voice was quiet. Then you'll probably end up like your uncle's other problems. Disappeared. Jesus Christ! I leaned back, head spinning. This is insane. I know, but it's also an opportunity. Help us and we can protect you and your family. We can relocate you, give you new identities, make sure you're safe. Witness protection? It's not ideal, but it's better than the alternative. Walsh reached into her purse, pulling out a small device. This is a recording device, designed to look like a pen. Tomorrow, when you meet with them, keep it in your pocket. Try to get them to talk about Morris's operations, about who else is involved. I took the device, weighing it in my palm. Such a small thing to carry such enormous consequences. What about my daughter? She's only 8. She has friends, school, a life here. She'll have a life somewhere else, a safe life. And if I refuse? If I just walk away from all of this? Then Tommy Castellano probably will kill you by the weekend, and your daughter will become an orphan. The truth of it hit me like a physical blow. There was no walking away. There was no going back to my normal life. Morris had made sure of that. I need to think about it. You have until tomorrow, but Mrs. Chen, Welsh stood, leaving money on the table. Whatever you decide, decide quickly. Time is running out. I sat in the coffee shop for another hour, staring at the recording device. Around me, people went about their normal lives, ordering coffee, chatting with friends, complaining about work. None of them knew that their city was built on a foundation of secrets and lies. When I finally left, I had the device in my pocket and a plan forming in my mind.
It wasn't a good plan, it probably wasn't even a smart plan, but it was the only one I could think of that might keep my daughter safe. I picked up my phone and dialed Tommy Castellano's number. "Mrs. Chen, I was hoping you'd call." "I want to meet, tonight, just you and me." "That's not how this works. I don't take meetings alone." "Then we don't have a deal. I'm not going to be intimidated by your muscle. If you want to work with me, you'll show me some respect." There was a long pause. "You're tougher than Uncle Morris expected." "Morris didn't know me very well." "Apparently not. Fine. Tonight, 9 o'clock, the warehouse on Industrial Boulevard, the one with the blue door. Come alone." "I will if you will." "Fair enough. But Mrs. Chen, if this is some kind of setup, if you're wearing a wire or bringing backup, I'll know, and your daughter won't make it to her 9th birthday." The line went dead. I had 6 hours to prepare, 6 hours to figure out how to record a conversation with a killer without getting myself murdered in the process. I spent the afternoon researching Industrial Boulevard using Google Street View to scout the area. The warehouse district was isolated, perfect for a clandestine meeting, perfect for making someone disappear. At home, I practiced with the recording device, learning how to activate it without looking suspicious. I wrote a letter to my daughter, telling her how much I loved her, and sealed it in an envelope marked, "In case something happens to me." Then I called my sister. "Jenny, it's me. Listen, I need you to pick up Elma from school tomorrow and keep her for a few days." "What? Why? Is everything okay?" "I'm dealing with some legal stuff related to Uncle Morris's estate. It might get complicated." "What kind of legal stuff?" "The kind where I need my daughter somewhere safe while I sort it out." "Are you in trouble? Real trouble?" "I hope not, but just in case, can you do this for me?" "Of course, but Alice, if something's wrong..." "I love you, Jenny, and I love Emma more than anything in the world. Remember that, okay?" "Alice, you're scaring me." "I'll call you tomorrow. Just take care of her if I can't." I hung up before she could ask more questions. At 8:30, I drove to Industrial Boulevard. The warehouse district was dark, most of the buildings empty or abandoned. I parked a block away and walked, the recording device heavy in my pocket. The warehouse with the blue door was exactly where Tommy had said it would be. A single light burned in the office window. I took a deep breath, activated the recording device, and knocked. Tommy opened the door himself. He was alone, as promised, but I could see the bulge of a gun under his jacket. "Mrs. Chen, punctual. I like that." The warehouse was mostly empty, just a few scattered boxes and a couple of chairs set up in the middle of the space. Tommy gestured for me to sit. "I have to admit, I'm impressed. Most people would have run by now." "I'm not most people." "No, you're not. Your uncle said you were weak, that you'd fold under pressure. But you're here, negotiating like a pro." Tommy sat across from me, studying my face. "Maybe Morris was wrong about you." "He was wrong about a lot of things." "Such as?" I thought about the FBI files, about the murders, about Sarah's photo. "He thought he was protecting people, but he was just controlling them." "Control is protection, Mrs. Chen. The world is chaos. People like Morris, like me, we impose order. We make the hard choices so others don't have to." "By murdering people?" "By removing obstacles. Morris understood that sometimes, for the greater good, difficult decisions have to be made." "How many people died for his greater good?" "Fewer than would have died without his intervention." Tommy leaned forward. "Do you know what this city was like before Morris? Gang wars, police corruption, politicians selling votes to the highest bidder. Morris brought stability. Through fear. Through consequences. Fear is just a tool, like any other." I needed him to be more specific, to give me something the FBI could use. "Tell me about the murders. How did Morris decide who lived and who died?" "You're asking the wrong questions." Tommy's eyes narrowed. "You should be asking how we decide who to trust." Something in his tone made my blood run cold. "What do you mean?" "Your uncle was many things, but he wasn't naive."
He knew that eventually someone would try to flip his network. He prepared for that possibility. Prepared how? Tommy smiled, but it was the smile of a predator. By making sure his successor would be properly motivated, by ensuring that betrayal would be costly. "I don't understand." "Don't you?" Tommy pulled out his phone, showing me a photo that made my heart stop. Emma, walking out of her school, backpack slung over her shoulder. The photo was time-stamped 20 minutes ago. "You said you were going to be alone tonight." "I am alone, but I have people who work for me, people who are very good at following instructions. If you hurt her, I won't hurt her, as long as you cooperate." Tommy pocketed the phone. "But Mrs. Chen, if you're thinking about going to the FBI, if you're thinking about recording this conversation, if you're thinking about anything other than saying yes to my offer, then your daughter will disappear, and you'll spend the rest of your very short life wondering what happened to her. My hand moved instinctively toward my pocket, toward the recording device. Tommy's eyes followed the movement. "I'm going to ask you to do something for me, Mrs. Chen. I'm going to ask you to very slowly reach into your pocket and pull out whatever you put there before you came here." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Agent Walsh is a very thorough woman, but she's not the only one with surveillance equipment." Tommy gestured to his ear, where I could now see a small earpiece. "I've been listening to your heartbeat since you walked in. It spiked when I mentioned recording. It spiked again when I mentioned the FBI." My hand was shaking as I pulled out the recording device. Tommy took it, examined it, and smiled. "Very nice. Government issue. I'm sure Agent Walsh thought she was being clever. How did you know about your meeting?" "Mrs. Chen, I've been in this business for 30 years. I know every federal agent in a 100-mile radius. I know their habits, their methods, their weaknesses." Tommy crushed the device under his heel. "I know Agent Walsh has been trying to build a case against Morris for 5 years. I know she's desperate enough to use a civilian asset, and I know she doesn't care if that asset survives the operation. She said she'd protect us. She said what she needed to say to get your cooperation. But think about it, Mrs. Chen. If she could have protected you, why didn't she arrest us today? Why didn't she just raid Morris's house and take the files?" I didn't have an answer for that. "Because she needs evidence. She needs recordings, confessions, something that will hold up in court, and she's willing to sacrifice you to get it." Tommy stood, pacing around my chair. "But I'm not willing to sacrifice you. You're too valuable. You're Morris's heir, his chosen successor. With the right guidance, you could be everything he was and more. I don't want to be anything like Morris. Then you'll die like him, alone, paranoid, surrounded by enemies." Tommy stopped in front of me. "But you don't have to. You can choose power. You can choose to be the one who decides who lives and who dies, who succeeds and who fails. And if I refuse, then Agent Walsh will find your body tomorrow morning, and your daughter will disappear into the system, another victim of a tragic crime." Tommy's voice was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing the weather. "But that won't happen, because you're going to say yes." "How can you be so sure?" "Because you're a mother, and mothers do whatever it takes to protect their children." Tommy pulled out his phone again, showing me another photo. This one was of Emma in a car, looking confused and scared. "She's safe, for now, but that could change very quickly." The world seemed to spin around me. Every option led to disaster. Every choice meant someone would die. "What do you want me to do?" "First, you're going to call Agent Walsh. You're going to tell her you've changed your mind, that you're not going to cooperate. You're going to convince her to back off. And if she doesn't believe me, then you're going to give her something she wants more than a recording. You're going to give her Morris's files, all of them." I stared at him. "I thought you wanted to protect the network." "I want to protect the important parts of the network. The rest is expendable." Tommy sat back down, his expression thoughtful. Morris was getting old, sloppy. He kept too many files, trusted too many people. It's time for a reorganization. "You're going to let the FBI destroy everything?" "I'm going to let them destroy everything that doesn't matter. The small fish, the local politicians, the judges and senators who've outlived their usefulness. While they're busy with that, the real operation will continue." "What real operation?" "The one Morris never told you about. The one that makes his blackmail network look like a lemonade stand." Tommy leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Your uncle was a middleman, Mrs. Chen. He facilitated transactions, managed relationships, kept secrets, but he wasn't the boss. He was just the public face of something much bigger." "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about an organization that spans multiple states, multiple countries. I'm talking about operations that make millions of dollars and affect thousands of lives. I'm talking about the kind of power that can change the course of history. You're insane." "I'm realistic, and I'm offering you a chance to be part of something extraordinary." Tommy stood, extending his hand. "Your uncle saw potential in you. He chose you for a reason. The question is, are you brave enough to claim your inheritance?" I looked at his hand, thinking about Emma, about the impossible choice I was facing. "And if I say no, then you'll never see your daughter again, and Agent Walsh will spend the rest of her career wondering what happened to her star witness." The warehouse was silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Somewhere in the city, Emma was waiting for her mother to come home. Somewhere else, Agent Walsh was waiting for evidence that would never come. I thought about Morris, about the choices he'd made, about the price of power and the cost of secrets. I thought about Sarah, about the daughter he'd failed to save, about the justice he'd sacrificed for the greater good. And I made my choice. "I'll do it." Tommy smiled, but it was the smile of a predator, or something else. Respect, maybe, or recognition. "Welcome to the family business, Mrs. Chen." But as I shook Tommy's hand, I was already planning his destruction. The next morning, I called Agent Walsh from a burner phone I'd bought on the way home. I told her exactly what Tommy had instructed me to say, that I'd changed my mind, that I couldn't risk my daughter's safety, and that I was backing out of her deal. "Mrs. Chen, I understand you're scared, but..." "I'm not scared. I'm being realistic. You can't protect us. You proved that when they took my daughter." "They took Emma? When? Where is she now?"
Safe, for now, but only if I cooperate with them. Listen to me carefully. We can get her back. We can... No, you can't. And I won't risk her life for your case. Take a breath. Switching to the script Tommy had given me. I'm willing to turn over Morris's files, all of them. But I want immunity for myself and protection for my daughter. What kind of protection? Relocation, new identities, a fresh start somewhere they can't find us. There was a long pause. The files you're offering, they're everything. Morris's entire operation. Every record, every photograph, every piece of evidence he collected over 20 years. And in exchange, you leave me alone, you let me disappear with my daughter, and you never contact us again. Mrs. Chen, I need to be clear about something. If you're riffing with them, if this is some kind of setup, it's not a setup. It's a mother trying to save her child. I never wanted any of this. I just want out. Okay, I understand. Where do you want to make the exchange? Tomorrow night, the public library on Center Street, 8 o'clock. Come alone, and bring the relocation papers. I'll be there. I hung up and immediately called Tommy. It's done. She agreed to the exchange. Good, you did well. Now, about those files. I'm not an idiot, Tommy. I know you're planning to double-cross me. The question is when. I'm not planning to double-cross you. I'm planning to use you. There's a difference. And what happens when I'm no longer useful? Then you'll retire, quietly, with enough money to live comfortably and enough fear to keep quiet. Like Morris did. Morris got greedy. He started keeping insurance policies, backup plans, contingencies. He forgot that in this business, paranoia is a luxury you can't afford. What about Emma? She'll be fine. Children are resilient. She'll adapt to whatever life you choose for her. I want to see her before the exchange. That's not how this works. You see her after you prove your loyalty, after you've shown me that you're committed to this partnership. And if I refuse, then the partnership ends, permanently. I spent the rest of the day copying Morris's files onto multiple drives, sorting through 20 years of corruption and crime. But I wasn't just copying, I was curating. Some files went to the FBI drives, others went to drives I hid throughout the house. And the most important ones, the ones that would bring down Tommy's operation, went to a special drive that I uploaded to a secure server. I also found something Tommy hadn't expected me to find, Morris's real insurance policy. Not the files in the safe, but a safety deposit box across town. The key was taped under his desk drawer, along with a note, "For my successor. Use wisely." Inside the box were documents that made everything else look like child's play. Financial records showing money laundering operations worth hundreds of millions, shipping manifests for human trafficking routes, communications with politicians and law enforcement officials across multiple states, and photos, dozens of them, including several of Tommy Castellano meeting with people I recognized from the news, senators, judges, business leaders, all of them caught in compromising positions. Morris hadn't just been a blackmailer. He'd been documenting an entire shadow government. But the most shocking discovery was a letter addressed to me. Morris had known I would find this box. He'd planned for it. "Alice," the letter began, "if you're reading this, then you've inherited more than just my house. You've inherited my burden, my guilt, and my responsibility. I'm sorry for that, but I'm also hopeful, because you're stronger than I ever was." The letter went on to explain the true scope of the operation, the real players, the connections that spanned decades. Tommy wasn't the boss. He was just another middle manager. The real power lay with a group called the Syndicate, a collection of wealthy and influential people who used Morris's network to maintain their positions. "They think they're untouchable," Morris wrote. "They think they're too big to fall. But they're wrong. The evidence in this box can destroy them all. The question is, do you have the courage to use it?" At the bottom of the letter was a phone number and a name, Detective Ray Martinez, Internal Affairs. I stared at the name, Martinez, the same name Tommy had mentioned, the police chief who was supposedly in Morris's pocket. But this was Ray Martinez, not Chief Martinez, and Internal Affairs suggested he was one of the good guys. I called the number. "Martinez? Detective Martinez, this is Alice Chen. I think you knew my uncle, Morris Chen." There was a long pause. "Where are you calling from?" My burner phone felt cold against my ear. A secure line. "I have something that belonged to Morris, something I think you've been looking for." The man on the other end, Detective Martinez, cut me off, his voice urgent. He couldn't talk over the phone. Could I meet him tonight? Just hearing the caution in his tone sent a chill down my spine. "I know," I admitted, my voice strained. "They have my daughter." There was a stark silence, then a sharp intake of breath on his end. He quickly gave me directions to the old Franklin Elementary, closed for 5 years, by the playground, at midnight. His final warning echoed, "Trust no one else." The corruption goes deeper than you know. I spent the evening in a frantic blur of preparation. This might be my last night alive. I wrote heartfelt letters to Emma, my sister, and my parents, sealed with a silent prayer. Morris's files were meticulously copied to multiple cloud accounts, and I set up automated emails, triggers for a dead man switch that would expose everything if I didn't check in every 12 hours. A desperate, final act of defiance. Then, I drove towards the abandoned school. Detective Martinez was waiting by the old playground, a solitary figure smoking in the darkness. He was younger than I'd imagined, early 40s, with eyes that held the weight of too much seen. He noted my resemblance to Morris, the stubborn expression. When I pressed him about his connection to my uncle, he revealed a shocking truth. He'd been investigating Morris for 3 years, and for 2 of those, Morris had been his informant. I stared, grappling with the implications. Morris, working with internal affairs? Martinez explained Morris had become trapped, desperate to escape the syndicate before they retired him permanently. He was more valuable feeding information than simply being arrested. The evidence he held was too volatile for normal channels. His own department, the local FBI field office, even the state police, all compromised. My distrust was palpable. How could I trust him when so many were bought? Then came the bombshell. Martinez knew where Emma was. My heart seized. He calmly explained, Emma was safe. She'd been in protective custody since yesterday, taken by an undercover detective who had infiltrated Tommy's operation months ago. It was Morris's final arrangement, made before he died, knowing Tommy would use Emma as leverage. The overwhelming relief nearly buckled my knees. She was at a safe house with federal marshals, oblivious, believing she was on a special adventure. He needed Morris's true files now, the ones from the safety deposit box he'd helped Morris set up months ago. I handed over the drive, filled with financial records, communications, evidence of murders, trafficking, and corruption at every government level. Martinez's grim expression confirmed its potency. This was enough to bring down the entire network, and potentially us with it. We discussed tomorrow night's exchange with Agent Walsh. I was to give her the decoy files Morris prepared. It would look like a major FBI victory, local players arrested. But the real, deeper operation would continue, while Martinez built a larger case, a process that would take months, even years. And Emma? Our lives? We'd disappear. New identities, federal protection, dead to the world. That's not living, I argued, the words a raw protest. That's just existing. Martinez's voice was harsh, emphasizing the syndicate's boundless resources. If they found us alive, if they knew what I knew, they'd hunt us forever. My options were bleak. Witness protection? Or something even more dangerous. Taking Morris's place. Becoming a spy within the syndicate. Feeding information to him. Risking permanent disappearance if caught. This path, he warned, would take 5, maybe 10 years. Emma's entire childhood. We walked to the old playground, the swing set creaking a mournful rhythm in the wind. I asked about Morris's endgame. Martinez explained Morris sought to make amends, to destroy the system he'd helped create. He wanted to prevent future damage, a desperate bid for redemption. He believed Morris had changed. I grappled with the enormity of it all. Would I be haunted by the things I'd have to do? He acknowledged the dark path, but stressed the lives I'd save, the children who'd grow up safer because of my actions. Like Emma, he murmured. I needed to see Emma before I decided. He agreed, but reiterated the urgency. The exchange was tomorrow night. After that, no going back. Once I was truly in, the only way out was death. Morris had learned that the hard way. Morris chose his path, I declared, standing up, brushing dirt from my jeans. I'm choosing mine. My voice was firm, resolute. I'm going to destroy them all. Every single one of them. Martinez cautioned me about the impossibility, but I only had one response. Watch me. I left him on the playground, a dangerous, stupid, suicidal plan already forming in my mind. But it was mine. The next morning, I called Tommy. I wasn't making demands, I was setting conditions. I wanted to meet the syndicate's real bosses before committing long-term. If I was to replace Morris, I needed to understand the full scope of their operation. Tommy's paws stretched, acknowledging the dangerous game I was playing. Morris, he admitted, had never met them. He'd been kept at arm's length. Then I'll be the first, I challenged. Consider it a gesture of good faith. Or a suicide mission, he countered. Maybe, but that's my choice to make. He'll make some calls, no promises. I told him I'd be waiting. Immediately, I called Martinez. I needed to accelerate the timeline. I was going for a meeting with the syndicate leadership. He thought it was insane. They'd kill me on sight.
Not if I was wearing a wire, I countered. If they refused, he'd still have enough to bring down the local network. It wasn't the whole syndicate, but it was something. My daughter remained in protective custody, no matter what happened to me. Martinez sighed, acknowledging my resolve. If I was determined, we'd do it right. Full surveillance, backup teams, extraction protocols. And if something went wrong, they'd make sure my sacrifice meant something. That evening, Tommy called back. They'd agreed. Tomorrow night after the FBI exchange. Midnight, top floor of the old Riverside Hotel. It was cutting it close after the 8 o'clock FBI meeting, but he simply told me not to be late. The 3 regional directors would be there, representing the syndicate's Eastern Seaboard interests. He wouldn't give me names. This was my audition, he warned. They were evaluating me as a potential threat. If they decided I was a threat, I wouldn't leave that hotel alive. The line went dead. I spent the final day making preparations. I met with Emma at the safe house, holding her close while trying not to let her see my fear. I recorded goodbye messages, I updated my will, I practiced with the recording equipment Martinez had given me. And I thought about Morris, about the choices he'd made and the prices he'd paid. At 8 o'clock, I met Agent Walsh at the library. She was waiting in the back corner, nervous and eager. Do you have the files? I handed her a drive containing the decoy files Morris had prepared. Everything's there, 20 years of evidence. And you're sure about the relocation? You understand you can never go back? I understand. I looked around the library, at the normal people living normal lives. Agent Walsh, when you arrest these people, when you bring down the network, be careful. Some of them are victims too. I'll keep that in mind. And Agent Walsh, if something happens to me tonight, if I don't make it to the relocation, nothing's going to happen to you. You're under federal protection now. Just make sure Emma knows I love her. Make sure she knows I did this for her. Walsh studied my face. Mrs. Chen, is there something you're not telling me? There's a lot I'm not telling you, but it's better that way. I left the library and drove to the Riverside Hotel. The building had been abandoned for years, its windows dark and broken, but I could see lights on the top floor and shadows moving behind the curtains. Martinez's voice crackled through my earpiece. We're in position, 5 backup teams, snipers on surrounding buildings. If things go bad, we'll extract you. And if they don't, then we'll have everything we need to bring down the entire network. I took the elevator to the top floor, my heart pounding with each passing floor. The hallway was dimly lit, and I could hear voices coming from the penthouse suite. I knocked on the door. Come in, Mrs. Chen. We've been waiting for you. The suite was elegant, expensive, untouched by the decay of the rest of the building. 3 people sat around the conference table, 2 men and a woman, all impeccably dressed, all radiating the kind of power that came from decades of controlling other people's lives. Please, sit. Director Hastings gestured to an empty chair. I'm Director Hastings. This is Director Kowalski and Director Santos. I sat down, trying to appear calm. Thank you for meeting with me. The question is, Director Santos said, his voice carrying a slight accent, should we be thanking you for coming, or should we be wondering why Morris's niece is so eager to join an organization that killed her uncle? Morris died of a heart attack. Morris died because his heart couldn't handle the stress of betraying his partners. Director Kowalski's voice was flat, emotionless. You murdered him. We protected our interests, just as we're protecting them now. Director Hastings leaned forward. Mrs. Chen, we know about your meeting with Agent Walsh. We know about your contact with Detective Martinez. We know about the files you've been copying and the plans you've been making. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult our intelligence. Hastings pulled out a tablet, showing me surveillance photos. We've been watching you from the moment you inherited Morris's estate. We know about every move you've made, every call you've taken, every decision you've considered. Then why am I still alive? Because you're useful, and because we want to offer you a choice. What kind of choice? The same choice we offered Morris. Work with us and prosper. Work against us and die. Director Santos stood, walking to the window. Your uncle thought he was clever. He thought he could play both sides, take our money while building a case against us. But he forgot something important. What's that? We don't just control criminals, we control the system that's supposed to stop them. Santos turned back to me. Detective Martinez works for us, has for years. Agent Walsh's supervisor is on our payroll. Even the safe house where you think your daughter is being protected, that's our safe house. The world seemed to tilt around me. You're lying. Are we? Hastings activated her tablet, showing me a live video feed. Emma was sitting in a room I didn't recognize, playing with toys while a woman I'd never seen before watched her. Where is she? Somewhere safe, for now. Hastings closed the tablet, but her safety depends on your cooperation. What do you want? We want you to be our new Morris, our liaison to the street-level operations, our face to the world while we remain in the shadows. And if I refuse, then your daughter will have a very short life, and you'll live just long enough to watch her die. I thought about Martinez, about the recording equipment, about the backup teams that were supposed to be watching. If the syndicate was telling the truth, if they really controlled everything, then I was completely alone. I need time to think. You have 30 seconds. That's not enough time to... It's enough time to choose between life and death, for you and for Emma. I closed my eyes, thinking about Morris, about the choices he'd made and the prices he'd paid. I thought about Emma, about the life I wanted to give her, about the world I wanted to leave behind. And I made my choice. I accept. Excellent.
Hastings smiled. "Welcome to the syndicate, Mrs. Chen. We're going to do great things together." But as I shook her hand, I activated the recording device Martinez had given me. Because even if he was working for them, even if the whole system was corrupted, I still had one advantage they didn't know about. I had Morris's real insurance policy, and I was about to use it. Before we begin, I have a gift for you. Something Morris left for his successor. I pulled out a flash drive, not the one containing the evidence, but a decoy loaded with a virus Morris had prepared. His complete files, everything he collected over 20 years. How thoughtful. Hastings took the drive, inserting it into her tablet. Let's see what secrets Morris was keeping. The virus activated immediately, spreading through their network, copying files, gathering intelligence, sending everything to servers around the world. Within minutes, every communication, every transaction, every secret the syndicate thought was safe would be exposed. "What have you done?" Kowalski's voice was sharp with alarm as his own devices began malfunctioning. "What Morris always wanted to do," I said, standing up. "I've destroyed you." "You've destroyed yourself." Hastings reached for her phone, but it was already dead. "And your daughter. Emma's safe. She's been safe this whole time because Morris didn't just prepare evidence against you, he prepared a plan to bring you down." "Impossible. We control everything." "You control the system, but Morris built a network outside the system, people who couldn't be bought, couldn't be threatened, couldn't be corrupted." The doors burst open and federal agents flooded the room. But these weren't local FBI. They were from a joint task force Morris had helped establish. Agents from multiple agencies who'd been working in secret for years. Directors Hastings, Kowalski, and Santos, the lead agent announced, "You're under arrest for conspiracy, racketeering, murder, and about 50 other federal charges." As they were led away in handcuffs, Hastings turned to me one last time. "You have no idea what you've just unleashed. The chaos, the destruction. Will be worth it," I finished, "because it's the truth." Later, as I sat in a federal debriefing room, Detective Martinez, the real Detective Martinez, explained how Morris had really spent his final years. He wasn't just collecting evidence, he was building a case that would survive his death. He knew he wouldn't live to see the syndicate fall, but he made sure someone else could finish what he started. Why me? Because you were the only family member that wasn't already corrupted, because you had a daughter to protect, because you had nothing to lose and everything to gain. And Emma is safe. She's been in real federal protection this whole time. The syndicate never had her. That was just psychological warfare. So it's over. The syndicate is finished. Their network is collapsing. Hundreds of arrests are being made across the country. Martinez smiled. But it's not over for you. You're going to testify in dozens of trials. You're going to spend the next few years helping us clean up the mess Morris left behind. And then, you get to live the life Morris never could. Free, safe, with your daughter. I thought about Morris's letter, about the burden he'd carried, about the choice between justice and peace. He'd chosen justice, even knowing it would cost him everything. Now, I had to choose too. But thanks to Morris's sacrifice, I had options he never had. "There's something else," Martinez said. "Morris left you a final message. In his safety deposit box, there's an envelope with your name on it." The envelope contained a single photograph.
It was Morris and Sarah, taken when she was Emma's age, both of them smiling at a playground. On the back, in Morris's handwriting, was a simple message. "The sins of the father don't have to become the sins of the daughter. Make better choices than I did. M." I looked at the photograph, at the man who'd given up everything to make sure his family could have a future. Morris had been many things: blackmailer, criminal, killer. But in the end, he'd been something more important. He'd been a father who loved his family enough to die for them. 6 months later, I stood in a courtroom as the last of the syndicate leaders was sentenced to life in prison. Emma was in school, living a normal life, unaware of the shadow that had hung over her childhood. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked me how it felt to bring down one of the most powerful criminal organizations in American history. "It feels like justice," I said. "It feels like my Uncle Morris can finally rest in peace." But the truth was more complicated. Morris had paid a terrible price for his choices. He'd lost his daughter, his family, his soul. He'd spent 20 years living in a world of secrets and lies, never knowing who he could trust. I didn't want that life for Emma. I didn't want it for myself. So I made a different choice. I chose to live in the light, to tell the truth, to build a future on something other than fear and corruption. It wasn't easy. It wasn't simple. But it was right. And sometimes, that's enough. Morris's house still sits empty on Maple Street, its windows dark, its secrets finally revealed. The city has moved on, rebuilt itself, learned to function without the hidden networks that once controlled its fate. But I remember. I remember the choice Morris made, the price he paid, and the gift he left behind. The gift of a chance to do better. And that, I think, is the best inheritance of all.